Hello everyone, welcome to this video. In this video we're going to be checking for Windows specific vulnerabilities with Nessus. Alright, so let's get started. Now in the previous video we looked at how to perform or how to check for vulnerabilities on Linux, more specifically Metasploitable 2. In this case we're going to be looking for vulnerabilities on my operating system here that I'm currently running, which is Windows 10. So I'm really curious to see what vulnerabilities we can find. Alright, so let's get started. So I'm just going to open up my virtual machine again, and we're going to create a new policy now. You should be accustomed to this, and this is always good practice to create your own policies. So from then onwards, you can customize them to your liking as well. We're going to new policy there, and we want to perform an advanced scan. Alright, because we want to select our own plugins, and we're going to change the name to Windows Scan. And we're going to leave these settings as they are, and we're going to go directly to the plugins. Alright, because we already know what we're doing now. Alright, now the plugins are the most important thing. Now, as I remember, some of the most important ones that you would find with Windows are really very simple. We have the DNS, databases, denial of service. So I'm just going to disable these ones. Do we need backdoors? Not really. So we would, DNS is really the most important one. So I'm going to leave databases, Debian, no, we don't need, denial of service. Yes, DNS as well. Local network security checks, no, nothing there. Fedora, nothing as well. Firewalls, no. FTP is very important. We have to make sure FTP is there. Gain a shell remotely, not really. General, nothing. Usually we would have the SMTP, or the settings or web servers. Yeah, usually those are the main ones that I would use. So let me just get rid of these other ones here, and let's go all the way down so we can do it directly from there. We would have Windows user management. That's very important. We have the Microsoft bulletins, Windows as well, web servers. Yes, we need that. Settings as well. There we are. Let's SNMP, which is important as well. The settings, yes, there it is, it exists as well. SMTP, yes, SMTP problems, that's very, very important. Service detection, yeah, we need that as well. Scientific, that we don't need. SCADA, we can leave the peer-to-peer file sharing on as well. That is to deal with torrents or torrent clients. Yeah, those are pretty much the most important plugins that I've found to work well when performing a vulnerability scan on a Windows operating system. Now, mind you, I'm running the latest version of Windows 10, which is, in my opinion, it's quite secure, and I have taken extra precautions to secure it even more. But let's see what it's able to turn up. You know, hopefully it can also teach me a thing or two about what I need to do on my system. All right, so I'm going to hit save, and once it's done, we can just go back to our scans, all scans, and we're going to create a new scan. And we're going to go to the user-defined templates and look for the Windows scan. We're just going to call it local Windows scan. All right, simple as that. And we're just going to get the IP address. I actually forgot to do that. So I'm just going to open up my my terminal here. And to get your IP address details, just hit ipconfig on Windows. And again, you can run this on a Windows virtual machine. You could have downloaded your own. You know, you can run Windows 7, Windows XP, as long as you're just understanding what's going on. So the local IP address is 192.168.1.104. All right, so we're going to use that. So 192.168.1.104. Excellent. So that is the IP address there, which is our target. And we don't need to change anything regarding the schedule and the notifications. So I'm just going to hit save. And once it's done, we can begin the scan. So I'm just going to hit launch. And again, it shouldn't take too much time this time because we've used a lesser amount of plugins. So let the scan begin, and for some reason it's not yet started, but it should start anytime now. So I'm just going to get rid of these other scans here, and it's still pending. If it tells you that it's pending, just give it a few seconds. Just let's go back to my scans, and there we are, the scan is running. If it takes quite a while, don't worry about that. It usually starts up anyway. So I'll get back to you when the scan is complete so we can look at what vulnerabilities Nessus was able to discover. Alright, so the scan is complete, and we can go ahead and look what it's found. So I'm just going to double click on it, and there we are. So again, this time we don't have any major vulnerabilities. It was only able to gather information about certain vulnerabilities. So let's look at what we were able to find. Alright, so if I click on the vulnerabilities page here, or the vulnerabilities tab here, we can see that we have the default, just some normal information regarding vulnerabilities that might exist. So for example, we have the VMware ESX GSX server detection. So let's click on that. So according to its banner, so that means there was a banner grabbing here. The remote host appears to be running a VMware server authentication daemon. Now that is very important, you know, someone being able to get information about my system, like for example in this case, it was able to detect that I am running VMware, all right, which is quite interesting. So which likely indicates the remote host is running VMware server or ESX server or GSX server. So that is quite interesting. I really like that, and it was able to deduce this by looking at the ports. So the ports 912, which was the TCP port for VMware authentication, and 902, which was TCP for VMware authentication as well. So very, very interesting. Okay, so let's go back to the vulnerabilities and let's see what else we were able to get. There we are, service detection. So let's click on that. So Nessus was able to identify the remote service by its banner or looking by the error message it sends when it receives an HTTP request. Alright, so it was able to find out that SSH was running. Interesting. Let's see what else. Web server was running. Very, very interesting as well. Nothing else here that was interesting. The only thing was the SSH, but we already knew that the SSH by default is configured to run on port 22. Alright, back to the vulnerabilities. Let's see one more that we were able to get, and something more interesting here, because Windows is quite secure nowadays. So let's see. There we are, Windows NetBIOS or SMB, remote host information disclosure. Alright, so the remote host is listening, UDP is listening on the UDP port 137 or TCP port 445, and replies to the NetBIOS NBT scan or SMB requests. Alright, so fantastic. So it was able to get 4 NetBIOS names. As you can see, Alexis Workstation, that's the name of my computer. That's awesome, you know, and I'm actually running a file server of this computer. So it's really, really interesting that it was able to gather that. I'm actually quite impressed. As for the work group, it detected I have a work group, and it got the MAC address on my adapter. So that is interesting. You know, that is quite interesting. For the simple fact that I do run a file server, and it was able to gather the computer name. Right. So that was very, very interesting. And that is essentially it for this video. As you can see, it's really very simple performing scans on different operating systems, and Nessus has really made it easy for you to select the appropriate plugins. You can scan for and against different plugins, and it really makes your scans more interactive, and it gives you more results and different ways to analyze your target or your host and understand what vulnerabilities exist. Alright, so that's going to be it for this video. In the next video, we'll get started with OpenVAS. So I hope you're excited, and I'll be seeing you in the next video.